welcome back to Computers for the Completely Clueless. I'm Lee Keller.
I'm Kim Cavanaugh. I'm not Lee Keller. I'm Kim Cavanaugh.
That's a first
I forgot who I was. I'm so clueless.
That's okay. You don't have your badge on.
Oh, I know. I'm very confused
And
today.
we're talking about the control panel, and right now we're knee-deep into the content section. So we're going to take a look at that and go through content. One thing that we wanted to stress is that with this content advisor, it is not a silver bullet.
Correct.
It's not going to replace the responsibilities of a parent and make sure your kids don't go to bad sites. You still have to check on them.
The best control over use of the internet is an adult looking over the shoulder of the child.
Yeah, I used to walk through the living room where my computer was for the kids every 3 minutes or so.
Right, and at a random time interval so that they never know when to expect.
And very quietly.
Yeah. So, the internet is a wonderful thing. It's like a big city, though. There are great neighborhoods and bad neighborhoods. So you want to be careful. And the content advisor is a way to help you.
It does help.
Yes, it does.
It's just not a silver bullet.
All right, so let's go on, and there's additional items here, general tab, and so forth. Again, this is where you would have a supervisor password. So if you're the parent, you want to set the supervised password. Otherwise, your child could go in and reset everything.
Right.
So turn off all the filtering that you've put in, and then it wouldn't do you any good.
Okay, and then you've got your rating system buttons, but that's getting pretty complex, and you're getting into that. If I was a parent with young children today, I'd probably be exploring this, using it as much as I can, because it does help.
And there are other applications that you get, some of them for free. For instance, Cyber Patrol comes from our school district. I think that's the name of it.
Yeah.
And you can download that for free, and that's another way that you can get some help on how to keep your kids safe online.
Now, if you subscribe to something like a ratings bureau and that, you can import these things too. We're not going to be doing that here, but that one's relatively advanced, as it says on the tab.
Right. All right, so we can apply those or cancel them, or in this case. Now, a couple more things again. We're on the content. I don't know we're going to worry about certificates too much. Most of that's handled pretty much automatically.
Yeah, stay away
from
that.
But autocomplete, you wanted to look at that real quickly.
Autocomplete's a wonderful thing because a lot of times when you're typing in an address, you don't have to type in the whole thing. It'll bring up suggested completions for you.
Right.
I use that for web addresses. I actually even use it for forms because if I'm doing forms online, I like to hit the first number of my address, my street address.
That's what it'll do. And if you don't see that happening on yours, it's a very simple thing to turn that on. So I used to do the same kind of thing. I'm filling out a form. I hit the first letter in my first name. Boom, my first name shows up. First letter in my second name. Hopefully I don't try to put Lee Keller in there like I did in the intro. But you use the same information over and over again. Your address doesn't change. Your name doesn't change. So why do you have to type it a gazillion times?
Well, sidebar, a lot of us use tools like the Google Toolbar, which has the autofill, fills out forms for you.
Right,
but
very handy.
Typically, this comes in handy. This last part here, usernames and passwords on forms. Prompt for passwords, because you don't always want it to save your password.
Right.
If a browser or something saves your password on a system, that means anybody that gets to that website now, it's going to log you in and put the password for you.
Right.
That can be a little dangerous.
Right. So you want to be careful about that one, but and I agree. I always ask it to. I don't automatically save my passwords.
And for RSS feeds, one of your favorite sections.
Yeah, it is, and a topic for a whole nother show someday.
But you usually want it to check that every day, don't you?
Oh, much more than that. But I'm not really thrilled with the way that Windows handles, at least this version of Windows. Newer versions of Windows and Internet Explorer and Outlook or Outlook Express do this for you. So not a whole lot I'd want to do here.
Yeah, you can see a lot of the growth with RSS feeds and social networking and blogging and everything, just with what both the Macintosh and the Windows side have done to really make that more of a robust item.
Right. So we're going to fly on past that and keep right on moving along here, Leah, because we'll be here in internet properties the entire time.
Okay, connections, real quickly. The only time you're going to go into connections is if you can't connect.
Okay.
And the most important thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to skip all of these, go all the way down to LAN settings.
Now, this applies if you're on a network. Now, that network could be a DSL network or a cable network or at your place of business where you're working.
Right. Or if you're on a router.
Or if you're on a router. All those are going to be in the LAN settings. So it's a little bit misleading. It's really more of it's local area network. That's what it stands for. But, so few people are using dial-up anymore that's where you're always going to end up is down there on those LAN settings.
Yeah, now we're in a special network here, but
Right.
normally the only box you want to check is automatically detect settings.
So the computer automatically evaluates the feed, the information coming in from your network, detects the settings, and applies them appropriately.
Right.
So that's really, really easy.
That's important, and really that's all you want to do unless somebody is guiding you through an internet connection setup.
Very good.
Now over here we have programs, and we want to go through this quickly because this is where you can change your default programs for certain things. An HTML editor, odds are the average person never uses this, so we're going to leave that alone. But email, maybe you don't use Microsoft Office, maybe you're using one of these.
Outlook Express is very popular for home use, or you might, there's other mail applications that you can buy, and you might decide that you like them.
Right.
So you would have to tell the computer which of your email programs you want to use as the default.
Very important thing to do. News groups, not many people use those anymore, but if you do, this is where you set up your default program for anything related to these particular topics.
Right. There's also a little checkbox down there about default web browser.
Right.
Let's say you're using Firefox instead of Internet Explorer. Every time you start up your web browser, you're going to get nagged about whether or not you want to make Internet Explorer. Oh, you're not using Internet Explorer. Don't you want to use Internet Explorer?
And if you don't want to be nagged,
I uncheck that box and say, don't ask me about that anymore.
Now, add-ons are extra programs. I really don't want to get into that because it's a little more advanced. It's not for our
also, I think they
audience.
tend to be a little bit dated at this point for the application we're using.
Okay.
And then you found something in advanced we should look at?
No, not really. I just wanted to hit advanced real quickly and point out that there are a lot of things in here. You have to be careful when you're messing with these things because changing it could cause problems. Sometimes you might not be able to back in here.
So let's just put a piece of virtual duct tape over the advanced tab and not really
occasionally somebody might take you in here if you're troubleshooting, but for the most part,
probably the biggest thing to know here, and again, this may apply especially if you've got kids at home, is how to restore the settings.
Yes.
Because kids tend to be curious. And they'll go in there.
That's a good thing.
It's not a bad thing, but they might go in there and they might uncheck something or change a value. And so those buttons down there at the bottom there that let you just go back to the factory settings, sometimes that's a really good thing to do if your internet connection is acting wacky.
Yeah, these two buttons at the bottom come in real handy. This one will restore everything in that top window, and this one will reset your Internet Explorer settings to the default settings.
So everything goes back to factory settings, basically.
And when you're done with all this, of course, you want to click OK. A lot of people ask a question, do I have to click Apply first? The only time you have to click Apply is if you want to apply those settings and then continue to work in it.
Right. And
if you click OK,
when you click OK, it's going to close this window
and
apply all your settings.
So we're done with that one.
Wow.
And
so that was fast.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk about keyboard now. Or at least we're going to try to talk about it. Maybe we'll just open it up here and give it just a second because we're up against a break. I didn't know there were so many things you could do with a keyboard.
Yes, a keyboard's got a lot of
just like we saw with Internet Options, there's a series of tabs across the top of the window, and those tabs allow you to go in and set some specific settings. So we'll come back after this break.
And we'll talk about the keyboard and the mouse.
All right. I'll try to get my name right there.
Okay, don't go anywhere.